проявили очень достойно, с пользой и для себя, и для других людей.
You know, it always turns out this way, that when you work and live for others, for the benefit of others, it always returns to you, you know. It always helps you. It always cheers you up and develops you. It makes you more successful and better in every way, and you find new prospects for yourself. That is why I would like to welcome you and express my hope that here in Russia, in Sochi, you will like it here, that you will get to know interesting people just like you, that you will hear their opinions, you will hear from them how they live, what they propose to do, what they achieve. You can compare that to your own plans, to your own abilities, and I would love to have it so that you yourselves come up with new ideas that you can implement. So I'd like to thank you for coming here today and express a hope that you will find new experience here, including experience of working with Russia. We have a very rich culture, we have traditions, we have religion, we have culture, and it's even difficult to say how many ethnicities and nationalities live in Russia. Some say it's 200, some say more. This is an experience of many nationalities living together, melting together into one country. We have a lot of various languages and ethnicities and nationalities, and some of them, and many of them, are represented here as well. Well, Russia is not unique in all the ways, but there are some unique aspects in that Russia has always been tolerant to other nations' languages, beliefs. It has been built, Russia has been built since the very start as a multinational society, and at the basis of that was always the respect towards other nations, towards other beliefs, towards other peoples and their worldviews. This has always been one of the building blocks of the Russian state, of the Russian nation. And I would like for you, while you are here in Sochi, to feel this diversity in Russia, and you carry these positive emotions with you, find new contacts, find new experiences that will help you to move forward. And I think that you are already accomplished people, but this will allow you to achieve greater heights. And this is what I wanted to tell you. Thank you. I would like to serve as a moderator and give the floor to our participant from India, a young lawyer and an ecologist.
It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you. I work in a sector which is long forgotten in my country, picking up garbage from the ocean. Which is picking up garbage from the ocean. Mr. President, we are all aware that marine litter is like a big problem all over the globe. And I, as an individual, I needed to react to it. I didn't know how to react because I work as a lawyer at the court in India. We have seen laws in motion, policies in motion, regulations in motion, and I as a lawyer felt there are too many of them all around us. What was required was ground action. The enforcement seems to be very poor, at least in my country. So I said I'm going to use my two hands to the best use. What a government policy would tell you to do, or what a law would tell you to do, or what a court order would tell you to do, I started doing before they could. So I am a strong proponent that if we young people or people who are at the ground level start protecting the environment and the ocean as it should be, I think we'll have a better and healthier ocean. What we do is, in a participative democracy, we do two things. We vote, we pay our taxes. And after that, we wait for our governments to react. We want the governments to react, saying that protection of the environment is the job of the government, or a court will order in India if the government is not doing it. But I feel reverse. We have littered. I am responsible for it. The muck which you see on the planet Earth, it's my doing. And I am a firm believer of what my great leader Mahatma Gandhi said. He was very clear. You don't need an NGO, you don't need a bank account, you can be the change yourself. So the idea is, so from bottom to top the approach should be. Where individuals don't wait for policies to come in, regulations to come in, the laws to take effect. The laws, policies, regulation will supplement you, will help you to push through among the masses. But individuals who have littered our planet, who have thrown plastic into the ocean, must be equally responsible to protect the environment. And that's what the work I do in Mumbai, India, and throughout India, cleaning up lakes, rivers, ocean. It's growing into a mass movement now, and I'm liking it because there's a whole what you call a sense of belonging which we have lost to the planet. Our homes are our homes, our cars are our cars, our assets are our own assets, but when it comes to environment, we just type on Facebook and Twitter. We say there's a problem, but we don't know how to react to it. The solution actually lies in that. Everyone must use a hand. I always tell people, you have 168 hours in a week. 2 hours you must connect to the environment. To connect in the sense that you gain back sense of belonging which you have lost. The fact that we are throwing plastic or litter either in the landfill or the ocean is indicative of the mindset which we have. That this is not mine. My house will be clear. If I was told that if you have to sleep on a bed full of plastic, you would be horrified. You'd make sure that everything is cleaned up. Now that approach you don't have to your surrounding, your neighborhood, your ocean, your forest, or your mountains. And by cleaning the ocean, we are working precisely that. Cleaning of ocean, beach, forest. Mr. President, is just a consequence according to me. What we are working is on the mindset of heart and mind of people. Law will work on a platform, and then individuals will work on a platform, and eventually they will merge someday, where people will say, yes, we respect the law, we obey the law, we see it being enforced. And before that, I put it on myself of enforcing it. So this is my take on environment, which I'm working very hard in Mumbai. I hope someday I'll see a fitter ocean. You know, if you come to Mumbai, I can't even put my hand into my ocean. I live in a coastal belt. I've seen as a child, you know, I've been in that water. I can't now put it in my hand because there's a danger I can get some disease. Now, to reverse it, I feel people have, on the ground level, will have to get involved. People who are throwing plastic, litter, solid garbage, liquid garbage, they will have to come on board and understand that this is not only the job of the government. President and Prime Minister's job is not only that. They have other things to look at. But the individuals will have to get connected there and say, we are a community, I have a sense of belonging, I work hard for it. So this is what goes through my mind when I work in Mumbai, India. And hopefully with the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, backing me up there, you know, it's growing into a moment, I'm loving it. I want my whole country to be clean, I want the oceans of the world to be clean and healthy, and I'm working for that. Thank you, President Putin, for giving me an opportunity to be here. But I must thank the organizers as well. They have been brilliant. I've been here for 3 days. I have never seen such zeal and energy, you know, which I see here. And hopefully I'll take lots of it back, you know. In fact, I always tell people of these youngsters are our leaders and we must take it from them and they must lead on instead of we leading them on. Thank you very much.
Во-первых, вы наверняка знаете,
что у нас в Индии Russia and India over decades have developed a very special kind of relationship, a relationship based on trust. And I have very good relations with the Prime Minister of India. And I know for certain that he is very, he does a lot in terms of various environmental issues, and you will find an ally in him in that. But this is a problem that is growing, and it is difficult to resolve, as it turns out, because to move to more efficient technologies, to safer technologies, is not easy. It requires additional capital investment in order to develop these new technologies. And not all countries, especially countries with developing economies, have this kind of capital. And the second thing is that in order to move to these better, newer technologies, you have to make, unfortunately, you have to make the industry by force to move towards these new technologies. What does this mean? This means that new workforce appears because people lose their jobs, because it's automated. So you need to think about these new people that are now jobless. And of course, it also drains some resources from your budget, to implement these new technologies. And the industry itself says that it's an additional burden for them, economic burden for them, and they say that this is often something that cannot carry. So the government of every country has to decide between these seemingly different and approaches. But of course, the future lies with the progress, with technological progress, and these new technologies will lead to improvements in terms of environment and other improvements. And I have a question to you. How did you organize your firm? Is it a recycling firm?
I strongly believe we have lost touch on that sector, where too much reliance is placed on formal sittings of parliament and law at times. I think if we get the connect right between human beings and connect with the environment, it works. So it was a purely voluntary action. I go to schools, colleges, I initiate cleanups, and I not only do it as a citizen, President Putin, I do it. I get the plastic manufacturer also involved, those who are manufacturing those packaging. Because the problem must also come on their head that it's a big problem of plastic in ocean. We'll have more plastic than fishes by 2050. That's the prediction.
Мы с вами знаем, да, поскольку вы этим занимаетесь.
We know, because you do that, many people in our country and in other countries know that this is a very important problem. There's plastics in the ocean. There's plastic bottles somewhere in the Pacific. They create whole islands. And specialists believe that these things change the temperature of the ocean and creates real, actual global problems for the ocean and for the climate. And so this is an issue that requires perhaps maybe a legal solution on the global level and, of course, on the national level of every country. And maybe we should think about creating certain conditions for purifying these waters. Maybe we have to create some preferential conditions or something. And so maybe your professional knowledge as a lawyer can help in that as well. Actually, yesterday I had the honor to welcome the chairman of India's parliament, who came to Yekaterinburg to the Interparliamentary Forum. Let's continue. Hamal is a young doctor from Indonesia.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So it is a great honor for me to come to here. This morning I called my father and mother. I said that I will meet you. He's very happy. So I'm a medical doctor. I finished my bachelor degree last year. But in my bachelor degree, I started company and foundation that we focus to open doors to access for poor people. So we develop a lot of innovation. Our vision is open doors to access. First, when we started the company, we developed micro insurance. So what we have done is we use garbage to help people get health access. So in our company, people pay with the garbage, and then they can get health insurance. They can operation, hospitalized, get medication, drugs, anything, only pay with garbage every month. With this concept, we can solve two problems at the same time. So with this concept, poor people, previously they think garbage is unused, health is expensive. But after I come to community, I said, don't worry, now you can come to our clinic free, but pay with the garbage every month. So this concept is sustainable and financing and can help poor people to get health access. And then the next innovation we do is we have vision, how I can help a lot of people to get health financing. So we develop platform, website. If poor people, they need money for operation, they just upload in the website and then people will donate. We start it and it's very simple using the power of volunteerism, social media and digital. And the next innovation that we create is we call Home Medica. So I have a dream. How if people from, I live in Malang City, maybe people from Bali, Jakarta, in Indonesia, they sick, I can send medical doctor to the home directly. So we develop platform, mobile apps, website. If your neighborhood sick, you just open or download our application, choose the province medical doctor, and then you order, the medical doctor will come to the home. Poor people get it free, but rich people pay for it. So with all of this innovation, we believe in one mission: health is fundamental human right. So we want to give healthcare access for everyone in the world. Thank you for the time.
Да. Ну, вы занимаетесь одним из важнейших направлений.
So what you are doing
одним
is
из самых
one of the
благородных,
greatest,
с
most
видимым
noblest
результатом своей работы. Это всегда
areas. This is a special mission. It's not just a profession. It's a mission, and I have always greatly respected the work of medical doctors. In the modern world, medicine is not just a humanitarian area, it also has an economic aspect to it today, because when a person has health problems, it's much more difficult for him to perhaps master new knowledge and new skills required for the modern economy. It's difficult for him to work, and that is why health is humanitarian and also has an economic aspect, and that is why one of the areas that that governments have to actually invest into is healthcare. And of course, human life is priceless, and that is why healthcare is one of the most important areas. Now, as for free, as the aspect of it that it is free, well, there can be nothing else other than helping people. And in terms of the way this area, healthcare, is organized, each person needs to realize that he is responsible for his health. And that is why you should think about where the government has to intervene in how much should it intervene, where it should finance something, where it should help people. Well, for example, in something, the government can invest into something that is not the basis of human health, but adds to it. And as you know, in some countries, for example in the US, people are still discussing how to organize the healthcare system, how to shape it, whether the government needs to pay in full for the healthcare. And of course, I believe that it needs to be organized in a way that every person has access to healthcare. But this is an area where you and your colleague from India can join efforts, because he is a specialist in law and you're a specialist in economy, and you are dealing with the health of the people. But the things that you have come up with are very noble, and I support you. I would like to give the floor to Artyom Agamov, our Russian scientist. The Forbes magazine included him into the list of 50 Russian people who changed the world. We actually met not long ago. Yes, you have a great memory. Yes. I left Russia in late 1998, because at that time there were no prospects for science work in Russia, especially in my field. When I finished my studies in England, and then I worked in Switzerland, and in the US, then I became a professor there. Reached the highest tier of education there. And I always thought that I'm going to remain there in the West, because the West has been kind to me. But later I received an opportunity to work in Russia, and that is why I started coming every 4 months back to Russia. I received grant funding, and finally I decided to come back to Russia, and now I live in Moscow. I have a family, 3 kids. I'm hoping to be a father of 6 kids. This is my dream. Whether my wife would agree with that, that's a different issue. I enjoy working here in Moscow and Russia. I like bringing up my children. It's a great life here. Everything is changing. I believe it's changing to the better. I like young people here, young students, undergraduates, who are full of energy, unique boys and girls. And in my case, I have great opportunities to do science, and I work with these young boys and girls, and we started developing fields that earlier I never hoped to work in. And so I'm happy that I returned here to Russia. We're working with various new materials, developing new materials. You talked about Garinin when I talked to you last time. The one from the St. Petersburg Institute. Yes, that's right. And now we have a curious effect, because from time to time I receive messages from my colleagues living in the West who ask me, well, how do you like it there in Russia? Aren't you bored yet? Is it really interesting there? Is it comfortable in Russia? And I say, yes, it's great. And they ask me, well, maybe we should also come back. And I say to them, yes, you should. It's great to be back. And I believe that all countries are great, and there is no country that is greater than different countries. In every country there is something great, but each person has its motherland, its country of origin, and he loves it a lot. And I'm happy that what happened to me happened the way it did, but there are hundreds of people who are working in other countries at the moment, and I hope that they have the opportunity to come back. Yes, it's great that you were able to find yourself. It's very difficult to find yourself even if you move away, if you move out of your country, go some other places. And I think that you came back here because you actually did find yourself. The project that we implemented, providing financial aid and this scientific grants, helped at that, and people from your field and from other scientific fields, well, you said that you and your colleagues believe that it is not just the financing that's important, but the guarantee that the financing will continue is what we need. And as you might know, we have agreed to continue this financing, this and we guarantee that for the next years we will continue to do that. What I liked especially when I met your colleagues in Moscow was that we not only talked about where it's better to work, but how it's better to organize your work so that young scientists can remain here, and how to create the specific conditions, the laboratories, and many other conditions, how to create all of that, how to give them all of that, so that they can remain here and work here in comfort. And there will be a number of stages in the grant program that young scientists will be drawn into it and given this opportunity. And I was especially happy that our young scientists, young specialists, some of whom have been working abroad, are now thinking about Russian science, thinking about how to organize it better. And that is why I would like to say I'm especially grateful to you and to your colleagues for helping us with that. Yes, I like that you talk about the young scientists. You know, I'm a dreamer. I always dream about things. I have hopes and dreams. There's always something in my head. And for a long time I had a dream that we would have some program to attract our scientists back to Russia. But it would also be great to have a program that would prevent young Russian scientists from leaving the country. They need to have conditions here in Russia to be able to fulfill their full potential, so that young, promising scientists can create their own laboratories here. They can start actually working, that they can achieve a lot. And now we have that. Now my dream has come true. We have this program. So it's just awesome. And I'm happy that our scientists have started to return to Russia en masse. And the most promising scientists are actually returning. This is great for Russia. Yes, we will continue to think about that, and we have specific ideas to develop. Well, maybe it would sound harsh, but Russia is interested in having those scientists return that have actually accomplished something, because we are interested, of course, that all citizens of Russia come back to Russia, but in terms of scientific research, of course, we need the specialists that are promising, that have achieved a lot. Thank you and good luck. What do you do right now? Yes, I am actually a professor at the university. Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to give the floor to Rishimat Kristal. Let's say, from the creative aspects of our meeting. This is a person from Jamaica. I give the floor to you.
My mother is going to go crazy when she realizes what I'm doing right now. I did not expect this. I'm just a young Jamaican girl trying to change certain things. I'm an artist. I believe in charity, so I donate my time to recovering cancer patients and terminally ill cancer patients. But when I'm not doing that, I'm focusing on a bigger issue right now in my country, which is climate change. We're being severely affected, especially in the Caribbean region. Jamaica is an island. Our beaches are eroding. The main source of income is tourism. So when we lose our beaches, we lose the product that we are trying to sell to other people to come to our country. We also have an issue with the very active hurricane season that basically demolished Dominica, and our people, well, my people, are constantly living in fear that one of these hurricanes will just come and we'll lose everything. And we see the progression where a hurricane now is 3 times the size of what it used to be 10 years ago. And we are expected to experience severe effects of climate change within the next 10 years, where we're going to lose lands, we're going to lose a lot of structures. I see it already. Growing up, I went to this beach very often. It was my favorite beach, and now it's completely gone. I was looking forward to having that memory so I can show my children, and my children can show their children. So now it becomes a very urgent issue. So I came to Sochi to be among young people, young minds, to find ideas, because I see this problem. The public is not very educated about climate change, and I would like to get my message out there to everybody. I sit on the Executive Council of the Jamaica Climate Change Youth Council, and we are trying our best. But I feel like because of the urgency, I need more ideas. So I came to Sochi to find those ideas, meet with other young people that can network, and because it's a global issue. It's not just Jamaica, it's the entire Caribbean, and we are all going to be affected by this eventually. It's just that it's more urgent in the smaller islands. Thank you.
Вы сейчас сказали о том,
You have just talked about things that we know about in Russia. We have seen the tragedies that many Latin American countries have faced due to this catastrophic events, and we are always ready to support you, to help you. We have a very strong EMERCOM, the emergency ministry, which always helps other countries if they ask us. And as for the global issues, of course, all the world faces these issues, these problems, and as you may have heard, in Paris there have been an agreement to prevent climate change, and Russia supports all of these decisions. It had taken some obligations, and we are going to fulfill all these obligations, and we hope that this will all lead to some positive results. But as you might have heard, there are various opinions on that. Some people, some specialists believe that people can do little to save the environment that we are living in right now, because there are some deeper reasons for the climate change that are related to not just our planet, but even interplanetary environment, and it is due to some changes of cosmic scale. But still, I personally believe that these are all just, well, theories, but if we see that the situation is changing to the worse, the least we can do is do something to improve the situation, and you are in the right place for that. Our country supports all the initiatives to save the nature, to save our planet. And perhaps if we have an opportunity, we can exchange opinions, and you can hear new proposals. Going back to our Indian colleague who's doing the same thing, I think that I hope that you being here you will find a lot of new opportunities and experience. Nicolas Chalas, our friend from France, who has been living in Russia for several years. He's a graduate of the Moscow State University of International Relations. Yes, it's a great honor to be here today with you. As my colleague has said, I'm not a citizen of Russia. They say that I look like a Russian, but this is wrong. I am not Russian. And still, I came here to Russia to study at MGIMO University. And I never realized before that I could be here. If someone told me 3 years ago that I would be studying Russian language and living in Russia, I would be very surprised. Why did I choose Russia? It's a good question. I was interested in geopolitics at first, and I was interested in Russia's role in the international arena. There are a lot of interesting things in Russia, very large territories, and studying geopolitics is essentially studying Russia. I met a lot of wonderful people here, and I never hoped to meet them otherwise. And after several years living here in Russia, I have been on various channels as international specialist, and I have found my calling. I found what I want to do in my life. I want to create and promote friendship between our two countries. As you very well know, there is a lot of propaganda right now going on in Europe, this hypocrisy, and a lot of theorists are saying that Russia and Europe need to collide in some way, because otherwise Russia becomes too strong, and this would present a great threat to American interests, for example. So today I would like to say that I would like to drink for Russia, for its great future. Well, thank you. It's a very noble mission, noble goal. And in my view, it's a very interesting one, because, you know, look at what's happening in the world. Like, for example, India, 1,200,000,000 people, China, 1.5 billion people, the US has more and more migrants, immigrants, and as far as I can see, the white population, the white Christian population, is already a minority. Yes, and this is a very recent change. The white Christian population became a minority. It's less than 50%. What I'm talking about is that there are great global changes going on in the world. I'm not saying that they're positive or negative, I'm just stating that there are changes. And you said Russia has great territories. That's true. It's the Eurasian space that Russia occupies. But in terms of culture, and in terms of language and history, it's certainly, it's all a European space. And it's populated by people carrying this culture. Why am I saying that? I'm saying this because we are a significant center. We have been a significant center in the world, not even in terms of military or other things, and we need to preserve that. We don't need to always look back at what happened for example, in the 19th century when Russia and France had wars. No, we need to look into the future and how to create new pathways, new roads towards peace and future. Then we'll be able to preserve this European space as an important center in terms of its relations with Asia, with the American continent. And if this doesn't happen, then this will all this space will be divided into small, insignificant quasi-states who will lose their power, their significance, and Europe will no longer retain its culture. Yes, exactly. And if we maintain that, it will be a great benefit for humanity, because it's an important part of mankind's culture, and we need to preserve that, this legacy. So what you're doing is very interesting, and this is in very high demand, I would say. And I wish you good luck, and I hope that communicating with people here will be of great benefit to you as well. We have our friend in Zimbabwe who works in the energy preservation industry, and I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you very much for the invite to Russia. I'll first touch on my project in my company, then come back to a more interesting reason as to why I'm here. I founded a company called Oxygen Africa. We're a solar company, and we specialize in the building, owning, and operation of solar power plants. What we did, probably to answer when you touched about companies basically finding it hard to move towards newer technologies, we believe we've answered that question. So our model basically is what we do is we go to a company and we install the solar solution, but they don't buy it. We basically sell them the power for the next 20 years. Now, why did we do this? It removes the technology risk from the company. It puts the financial burden on our balance sheet, so there's no capital expenditure from the company itself. They are able to predict the energy costs, so basically they can hedge what the energy is going to, what a third of the energy cost is going to be in 20 years, which allows them to plan for their business. Now, it evolved this way because people say I'm a solar company, but what we are is actually an asset management financing company. In that we identified certain companies and said, look, blue chip companies, you obviously want to go green, right? What I'll do is I'll secure your pension fund for you. So your pension fund will invest in my business, and I will then install solar onto your rooftop. So in other words, the money that's supposed to be going to the state utility for electricity comes back onto their balance sheet as returns. I then went to the banks that bank these blue chip companies, and I said, look, will you give me non-recourse finance if I do, for example, a solar solution for Old Mutual, who I'm working with now? And they said yes. So now the bank has got a reason to bank their client, to give new ways of giving finance, but not on the company's balance sheet, but on my balance sheet. Then we created a whole ecosystem that involves the financiers, the insurance, and the clients, whereby everybody establishes value for their business financially, but through renewable energy. That way, we're able to ease the burden of moving to a newer technology. So that's pretty much what we do. Our project is 20 megawatts. It's been recently funded by the Africa Development Bank, and it's considered the largest commitment by a single company to renewable energy in sub-Saharan Africa. So we hope to, by the end of the project, we should have 246 buildings in total that will be powered a third on renewable energy. Back to actually why I was here, it's a funny story in that I actually have a book here that I got when I was 5 years old. Basically, we have a Korean neighbor when I was 5 years old that gave this book to my mom. And I used to love to read it a lot because it's just a pictorial, 13th Festival, Pyongyang, Korea. So when I got the invite to come to the festival, I looked at the logo and I was wondering, where did I see this particular logo? And then when I went home, I found it. And I was like, look, what are the odds that this was my favorite book as a child, but 27 years later, I'm here making an address and presenting what I do to you. So hopefully you'll get to sign it as well. The other aspect I wanted to touch on is I've noticed, like in my country, Russia has sort of come in, but more on the minerals and mining perspective. But I believe the bigger opportunity is in agriculture. And the reason I say this is our sister company actually imports a lot of its raw materials from Russia, your AN, your potash, etc. And they are the second largest manufacturers in the country. And I thought to myself that the future of Africa is actually in agriculture, and possibly Russia has a bigger role to play in forms of Exim finance, exports, as well as probably getting produce out of the country itself. So in a nutshell, this is me.
Я думаю, что вы приехали в правильное место.
I think you came to the right place.
И не только вам будет полезно, не только
It will be not only great for you to once again experience being in our country, well, and compare it to the books you read in your childhood, but in terms of your professional areas, because we are actually doing a lot in the renewable energy sources. And several years ago we were lagging behind, but now we have solar panels that are acknowledged as some of the best in the world, even the best in the world in terms of efficiency and in terms of their length of service, and they can be used. One of our private companies is making these solar panels. They started in Switzerland and they came to Russia. They developed these panels, improved them, and they have made a long path. And this is the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing is that not only for African countries, but even paradoxically, in our far north, solar panels are used to provide heat for oil, for oil pipes, and these solar batteries, solar panels are used to heat the oil when they come through this oil lines, oil pipes. I was very impressed when I found out that solar energy is enough to do that. And this unconventional sources of energy, these renewable sources of energy, they are connected and they will continue to develop side by side for many years in the future. And as for the issues of ecology and the pollution, the emissions, today coal is still generating most of the pollution. Some believe it's that maybe some other things like some other residues and other compounds produce more emissions, but actually I'm not sure. We will work towards that. It will all require a lot of financing, a lot of money. It always requires a lot of money, but in terms of using these scientific developments in practice, it leads to an opportunity to use them more broadly in other aspects, in other areas, and I wish you good luck. So, would you like to sign the book right now or later? Thank you. Now I would like to give the floor to Anna Kudryavtseva, our young scientist, head of the Genome Center. Yes, I know her. Oh, I'm so... Well, I'm so agitated. I can tell you about my life, the way I came to where I am today. When I was born, I was interested in medicine, I was interested in science, and I always wanted to be a medical doctor. I wanted to know how medicine is done. But my parents wanted me to become a musician, and I had to go through quite a lot to actually come to become a graduate of a university, and I was a graduate of a musical university. You know, life is full of coincidences, and it turns out that this was the right thing for me, because if you want to become a doctor, you need to want to help people, but you also have to have the you have to be the right kind of person, because if you're too emotional, you can't really be a doctor. You have to be more professional. You have to be more have to have the specific skills. So I studied music. I studied in St. Petersburg, and I received a great education there, and it allows me to work here in Russia and go to international conferences. I have a very good background in this way. Then I went to Moscow, and there we were dealing with the oncology. And after that, I wanted to find out what should I do with my life. And at one point, 10 p.m., I was returning home with my young son, and the director of the institute was was actually also going on foot, and we met. And he said that the academy has given them some equipment, some very expensive equipment, but they weren't able to buy it. And he asked, "Do you know perhaps someone who could buy it?" And I have just graduated, and I was like, "Yes, bring it to me." It would be so great if a person who graduated from our university were able to do that. And he said, "All right, why don't you try it out? If you succeed, we will give you a laboratory." Our institute is quite a strong one. It's very difficult to actually receive a laboratory, but it was a coincidence, a very good coincidence, that allowed me to get this equipment. I received a lab almost right after graduation, so this was a great landmark in my life. After that, I worked quite a lot, and the next stage of my life was the award I received. Why this stage was so important to me was because I have changed my views on science in many ways. Because when I went to the Herzen University, to a clinic with real doctors, I saw how things are done in real life. Because in Russia, it is mostly scientists who deal with the oncology, with this field, and doctors deal with their own issues, and they do not interact really, and that is why scientists don't really know how the patients are treated, what the doctors need. And when I went to work there, my life changed, and I realized what I need to look for. So the next stage was the award, because after the award I received a lot of phone calls. People were calling me to ask them to help them. But I said, "I'm not a doctor, I cannot treat you." I told them, "We are doing research, some fundamental research. This is science. This science allows to do something in the future. This is a basis for future treatment. But they asked, how can this help me? And I said, unfortunately, this cannot help you directly. And I was, this wasn't very pleasant to say to people, and that is why at that stage I wanted to do something. I also wanted to do something practical. And so I wanted to do that, and I have chosen a number of projects to work on. And it's very important for the media to inform the people, to say that fundamental scientists are important. They are the basis, because unfortunately the respect for scientists has disappeared to some extent in Russia. Well, so my projects are very important. One of the projects deals with the reproductive science. We have a strong and great country, and there is a large proportion of oncological patients who have some difficulties with that, and we help them. But unfortunately, at this point, it's difficult to implement because the society is not ready. We have to have the legal basis for that. We need to have programs so that people can use these technologies. This can only be done if the government helps. And it's also impossible if we... well, it's impossible apart from genetic research. So my team in the Kherson University is now implementing this project, and I hope that we will be able to achieve a lot so that we can help people. But an issue arises because a scientist in a lab knows better what needs to be done in terms of law to help, because he knows what needs to be done, but he doesn't have enough education. He's not a lawyer. He cannot just stop practicing medicine and start practicing law, because we know how to do this communication between business and the medical industry, but how to connect law and medicine, that is an issue, that is a problem. How do you explain to a scientist? How do you explain to the government agencies? You know, you have always been lucky throughout your life. Well, yes. First, you fought for your right to do medicine, not music. Then you graduated. Then you met your director of your lab by chance, by luck. And now you are sitting across to Mr. Kiriyenko. You can tell all of this to him, and he will help you to improve the legal basis. And you don't need to stop actually doing science. Thank you so much. I would also like to wish you luck. Now, Daniel Bell, a young professor from the United States. I'll give the floor to you, Daniel.
Permit me a happy belated birthday to you. Thank you also to the organizers for starting this event. My time here actually began 3 days ago in Moscow with the parade, and where 300 more or less other students my age from all over the world gathered and began to build relationships and get to know each other. And the opportunity that this event has presented is to examine these political problems, to examine these deep global problems from a distinctly non-political lens, a human lens, to examine the human universal experiences that are at the common core of all that we do. And in that time, at this parade, I met students from Iran, Iraq, Syria, intelligent, driven young people who are my age and who care about their countries and who care about their respective problems. And in that moment, you realize and you see more clearly than anything else that these distinctions we draw between ourselves and these distinctions, these overcomplications, these abstractions that we create around these problems are just that. And what lies there and what's really important is the human heart and the experience. You mentioned our healthcare debate in the United States. I believe that debate is at its worst and we don't realize the human element, the human effect, that people's lives are what's there, and we use instead the easy political thing to abstract and confuse. And so for me, language and teaching and education are means to that. They're a shortcut and a way to touch the deepest, most intimate things that we feel as human beings, our self-identities, who we are. And it's, as I prepare to go to Brazil to teach English, that is what I hope to do. That is what I've experienced through learning languages. That is what I've experienced through being here, is that even knowing one word is just a shortcut straight to who a person is and how they think. This festival offers the opportunity, like I said, to really just engage with people and not different nationalities. And I've done that, and I hope to continue to do that in all these different countries and people. This is my first time in Russia, and I've gotten to meet a lot of driven, young Russian people who are my age and who care about their country and who care about these problems and who care about the world that they live in. And what I sincerely believe is that I do not see them as my rivals. I hope that they succeed, because we need intelligent, young, driven people to tackle these issues, whether it's curing cancer, climate change, cleaning our environment. To paraphrase Aimé Césaire, no one people, no one nation, no one region of this world has a monopoly on answers, has a monopoly on solutions. And to tackle these things, we need to be constantly connected to each other and driven, and not seeing it, and not getting distracted by the things that are very, very easy to look at, and realizing that ultimately these problems affect all of us, and they're interconnected, and we are interconnected as members of this planet. And the West does not start in Los Angeles and end in St. Petersburg. We draw these lines, and events like this give us the opportunity to see that they're just lines, and what's behind them is human lives. And so again, I thank you very much for hosting us and for giving me the opportunity to be here today.
Well, мне кажется, что вы несколько вещей очень важных сказали сейчас.
I think that you have mentioned a number of very important things. First, you said that no one has the monopoly for promoting its own unilateral view of the world. That we need to respect diversity, and this is something that I also believe. And the second important thing is that we need to stop looking at each other as competitors. I don't know whether it's possible on the intergovernmental level, but we need to start looking at each other as partners. My neighbor, my colleague to the left, talked about just that, and I think that's a very important thing that unfortunately impedes our creation of mechanisms for cooperation, because we look at each other as competitors, as rivals, and if we want to unite, we need to stop wasting resources on secondary issues. We are wasting resources on these rivalries, and so in order to win, to become winners in these rivalries, and this rarely leads to a positive result for everyone, both for the victors and the defeated. So this is a sensitive issue. This may be a utopia of sorts, because nature, the underlying spirit of nature is this rivalry, this competitiveness, but still we need to strive to make it so that this competitiveness never escalates to wars, to actual conflicts, and we need to do as much as possible to cooperate and to find solutions to our common problems. And if we can do that, if we can establish our work in this order, then we will succeed. Mr. Putin, we are ready to conclude because we could continue speaking for a very long time. All the participants are very well prepared, have a lot of interesting things to say, but I would like to say thanks to all of you for coming here today, and we would like to end with a photo shoot. Yes, I would like to say thanks to all of you for talking to me, for coming here to Russia, and I hope that when you leave Russia, you will leave with new experiences, with new connections, with new friends. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. That will help you to move forward. And I think that you are already accomplished people, but this will allow you to achieve greater heights. And this is what I wanted to tell you. Thank you. I would like to serve as a moderator and give the floor to our participant from India, a young lawyer and an ecologist.
Very good evening, President Putin. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you. I work in a sector which is long forgotten in my country, picking up garbage from the ocean. Which is picking up garbage from the ocean. Mr. President, we are all aware that marine litter is like a big problem all over the globe. And I, as an individual, I needed to react to it. I didn't know how to react because I work as a lawyer at the court in India. We have seen laws in motion, policies in motion, regulations in motion. And I, as a lawyer, felt there are too many of them all around us. What was required was ground action. The enforcement seems to be very poor, at least in my country. So I said I'm going to use my two hands to the best use. What a government policy would tell you to do, or what a law would tell you to do, or what a court order would tell you to do.
We have religion, we have culture, and it's even difficult to say how many ethnicities and nationalities live in Russia. Some say it's 200, some say more. This is an experience of many nationalities living together, melting together into one country. We have a lot of various languages and ethnicities and nationalities, and some of them, and many of them, are represented here as well. Well, Russia is not unique in all the ways, but there are some unique aspects in that Russia has always been tolerant to other nations' languages, beliefs. It has been built, Russia has been built since the very start as a multinational society, and at the basis of that was always the respect towards other nations, towards other beliefs, towards other peoples and their worldviews. This has always been one of the building blocks of the Russian state, of the Russian nation. And I would like for you, while you are here in Sochi, to feel this diversity in Russia, and you carry these positive emotions with you, find new contacts, find new experience.
But we don't know how to react to it. The solution actually lies there. Everyone must use the hand. I always tell people, you have 168 hours in a week. 2 hours you must connect to the environment. To connect, in the sense that you gain back sense of belonging which you have lost. The fact that we are throwing plastic or litter either in the landfill or in the ocean is indicative of the mindset which we have. That this is not mine. My house will be clear. If I was told that if you have to sleep on a bed full of plastic, you would be horrified. You would make sure that everything is cleaned up. Now that approach you don't have to your surrounding, your neighborhood, your ocean, your forest, or your mountains. And by cleaning the ocean, we are working precisely that. Cleaning of ocean, beach, forest, Mr. President, is just a consequence according to me. What we are working is on the mindset of heart and mind of people. Law will work on a platform, and then individuals will work on a platform, and eventually they will merge someday, where people will say, yes, we respect the law, we obey the law, we see it being enforced, and before that I put it on myself of enforcing it. So this is my take on environment, which I'm working very hard in Mumbai. I hope someday I'll see a fitter ocean. You know, if you come to Mumbai, I can't even put my hand into my ocean. I live in a coastal belt. I've seen as a child, you know, I've been in that water. I can't now put it in my hand because there's a danger I can get some disease. Now, to reverse it, I feel people have, on the ground level, will have to get involved. People who are throwing plastic, litter, solid garbage, liquid garbage, they will have to come on board and understand that this is not only the job of the government.
Проявили очень достойно, с пользой и для себя, и для других людей.
You know, it always turns out this way, that when you work and live for others, for the benefit of others, it always returns to you, you know. It always helps you. It always cheers you up and develops you. It makes you more successful and better in every way, and you find new prospects for yourself. That is why I would like to welcome you and express my hope that here in Russia, in Sochi, you will like it here, that you will get to know interesting people just like you, that you will hear their opinions, you will hear from them how they live, what they propose to do, what they achieve. You can compare that to your own plans, to your own abilities, and I would love to have it so that you yourselves come up with new ideas that you can implement. So I'd like to thank you for coming here today and express a hope that you will find new experience here, including experience of working with Russia. We have a very rich culture, we have traditions.
I started doing before they could. So I am a strong proponent that if we young people or people who are at the ground level start protecting the environment and the ocean as it should be, I think we'll have a better and healthier ocean. What we do is, in a participative democracy, we do two things. We vote, we pay our taxes. And after that, we wait for our governments to react. We want the governments to react, saying that protection of the environment is the job of the government, or a court will order in India if the government is not doing it. But I feel reverse. We have littered. I am responsible for it. The muck which you see on the planet Earth, it's my doing. And I am a firm believer of what my great leader Mahatma Gandhi said. He was very clear. You don't need an NGO, you don't need a bank account, you can be the change yourself. So the idea is, so from bottom to top the approach should be, where individuals don't wait for policies to come in, regulations to come in, the laws to take effect. The laws, policies, regulations will supplement you, will help you to push through among the masses. But individuals who have littered our planet, who have thrown plastic into the ocean, must be equally responsible to protect the environment. And that's what the work I do in Mumbai, India, and throughout India, cleaning up lakes, rivers, ocean. It's growing into a mass movement now, and I'm liking it because there's a whole, what you call, a sense of belonging which we have lost to the planet. Our homes are our homes, our cars are our cars, our assets are our own assets, but when it comes to environment, we just type on Facebook and Twitter. We say there's a problem.